Welcome to Season 4 of Stan's Revenge. A new exciting chapter awaits. My name is Noah Almond. I've been experimenting with Stanley Meyer's water fuel cell technology for over 14 years. In previous seasons, I've made exciting discoveries in his technology, namely the operation of the electrical polarization process. This is unlike traditional DC electrolysis where low voltage and high amperage is utilized. As always, no electrolyte or additives are used in my cells. Only ordinary, natural water is utilized. In this season, I pushed the boundaries of my water fuel cell technology further in my latest attempt to break the glass ceiling of 150 volts. Join me as we unlock the secrets. This is Stan's Revenge. Hello everyone, my name is Noah Almond, aka Stan's Revenge. Today I'm going to be telling you all about the electrical polarization process. It's a revolutionary approach to water purification and energy generation. Understanding the prior state of the art. To understand the electrical polarization process, EPP, you must first have a clear understanding of traditional DC electrolysis. In the traditional sense, a power source such as a 12-volt battery is connected directly to a series of steel plates submerged in water. However, a small amount of gas is produced in this scenario. You may not know, natural water itself is a resistor to current flow. Therefore, the water must be augmented with a chemical additive such as salt, baking soda, potassium hydroxide, or other chemicals. This in turn makes the water much more conductive by facilitating the flow of amperage, or electrons, through the water. Electrical energy can be summarized by two functions, voltage and amperage. Voltage is the amount of electron push in a circuit. Amperage is the amount of consumed electrons, or current. In simple terms, voltage is pressure and is not consumed in a circuit, but amperage is. To understand this, imagine a pipe filled with water. The amount of water pressure in the pipe is voltage, and the volume of water flowing through the pipe is amperage. It's also important to note that in the electrical circuit, when amperage flows, voltage is decreased, much like pressure in the pipe. Blocking the pipe reduces current, which means pressure increases, much like voltage. Now, traditional DC electrolysis consumes extremely high amperage at low voltage. As amps flow, voltage decreases. During operation, the metal plates that are submerged in the water can get extremely hot and pose a complete meltdown risk. Additionally, the electrolyte can release unsafe gases in the process. Traditional electrolysis consumes more electrical energy than the equivalent gas energy that it produces. Simply put, traditional electrolysis is inefficient, mathematically finite, requires chemical additives, and poses serious risks such as hydrogen cell meltdown. Understanding the electrical polarization process, or EPP. The EPP performs the same function as electrolysis, but in an inverse fashion to traditional DC electrolysis. Instead of utilizing low voltage at high amperage to convert H2O to HHO gas, the EPP utilizes high voltage at low amperage. Unlike traditional DC electrolysis, no chemical additives or electrolyte is necessary for the EPP to take place. The EPP operates with pure natural water by utilizing the voltage intensifier circuit's available voltage potential. As voltage potential increases in the water fuel cell at a tuned frequency, gas increases production measured beyond a linear effect. As in the case of traditional electrolysis, gas production is a linear effect to the amount of amperage consumed. Understanding the current state. What must be understood is the energy usage of the water fuel cell versus the energy usage of the entire circuit. In a traditional DCE setup, traditional DC electrolysis, there's essentially no circuit. It is just a battery, or PSU, and metal plates, or cells. Energy is consumed and measured as a whole energy input to the system, because what you put into the system is the same as what you're putting into the cells. For instance, A DCE setup will consume about 300 to 400 watts of continuous energy to produce 1 liter per minute of HHO gas. This, for example, could equate to about 12 volts at 33 amps of power. The energy measurement for the EPP is a bit different. There's essentially 2 places of measurement for energy consumption. The first measurement location is the total energy input to the system, much like traditional electrolysis. This is the total power used to make the system operate, delivered from the PSU. This, for example, could equate to 29 volts at 13 amps, or approximately 400 watts. However, this input power is not the same energy that's being delivered to the cells. With the EPP, a special transformer is utilized that performs multiple functions, namely converting low voltage to high voltage. Therefore, the energy being delivered to the cells is not the same energy that's being supplied by the input of the system, or PSU. To summarize, the EPP setup, energy is measured at both the input source and at the cells. As it stands of writing this document, DCE is more efficient than EPP. This is a result of insufficient research, testing, and knowledge of the advanced transformer circuit dynamics that I can presently provide. The present focus of this document, video, and the EPP technology is the amount of energy consumed at the cells, the second measuring point. This is what truly sets apart the EPP from traditional electrolysis: energy consumption and production at the cells. As voltage levels increase without amp flow, gas production increases exponentially. For this matter, the EPP's efficiency is theorized to be near infinite, but present conditions, knowledge and understanding of the technology is limited. With further research and development, the EPP could reach efficiency levels up to and far beyond traditional DC electrolysis. Advantages of the EPP: no risk of water fuel cell meltdown because of the low amperage consumption. There's no electrolyte or chemical additives that are necessary. And there's a theoretical near infinite limit of efficiency. The gases produced are pure hydrogen and oxygen, HHO, along with ambient dissolved gases in the water such as oxygen, nitrogen, and CO2. No harmful gases are produced whatsoever. Ignited HHO gas produces absolutely pure H2O, surpassing distilled water. So as the molecule combines back to water, the water produced is absolutely pure. Extreme electrode lifespan. So because there's no chemical additives and there's low amperage, the actual plates or electrodes submerged in the water have a very long lifespan. The EPP utilizes any form of natural water. Does not require processed or distilled water in any way. You can use any form of water, whether it be tap water, bottled water, rainwater, snow, whatever form you have. Origins of the technology. Stanley Meyer began developing the water fuel cell in 1975. Through a period of over 20 years, he developed and patented numerous technologies pertaining to the water fuel cell, hydrogen gas management, vehicle engine integration, and much more. His patents are available publicly in multiple countries. Unfortunately, Stanley Meyer died in March of 1998, which is death surrounded by conspiracy and mystery. Meyer was just not some fringe garage inventor. He had many accolades, including working for the Battelle Foundation, NASA's Gemini project, and the EBED Star Wars Defense Project. He attended The Ohio State University and served in the military. He authored numerous patents in oceanography, cardiac monitoring, and even banking systems. Some of his patents were even reportedly prioritized given the significance of his technologies. Stanley was recognized by many national and international organizations. Defying the laws of physics. Many claim that Meyer's technology defied the laws of physics. In 1996, an Ohio court ruled Stanley guilty of gross and egregious fraud. It is important to note, however, that this court case was brought on by only 2 of his dealership investors. The water fuel cell was later examined by 3 expert witnesses, to which this day have yet to be identified, questioned, or interviewed. The scenarios surrounding these court cases were questionable at best. Even a local retired Darke County judge, Roger L. Hurley, defended Stanley until his death. Some point to the fact that patents can be granted whether or not a device does what it claims to do. I have read, but yet to confirm, that Meyer's patents were granted under Section 101 of the U.S. Patent Office, which required successful demonstrations to the Patent Review Board. Perpetual motion, zero-point energy, and other rubbish. The typical response to his technology is that it was a perpetual motion machine or utilized zero-point energy. In reality, neither of these are correct by definition. Stanley, in many of his memos and conferences, meticulously explains every facet of his technology and the physics that are applied to it. Simply put, he used known electronic circuit technology and known functions of such. He was not creating free energy. He was merely releasing the stored energy contained within water. H2O is the energy source, much like oil is the energy source of gasoline. You can't put oil into your gas tank, which raises the question, how much energy is needed to discover oil, drill it, pump it, transport, crack or refine it, and ship it again to its final destination? Then gasoline is utilized at less than 50% of its efficiency. It literally sounds insane when you put it like this. Application of the technology. Water purification. The water fuel cell produces absolutely pure H2O with no contaminants. It's a clean energy generation source. It produces heat or explosive energy without carbon emissions. Water mineral and contaminant extraction. It has a potential for filtration of water and utilization of the contaminants or minerals in the water. Research and development. Many independent inventors have tried to replicate his technology, but no one has yet to step forward and display a working prototype of his specific process. Until now. For the past 15 years, I've been researching and testing various configurations of the water fuel cell and voltage intensifier circuit. I've been successful in demonstrating the electrical polarization process by way of voltage disassociation of the water molecule without the use of chemical additives. This, in part, proves that the EPP that I am recreating is not traditional DC electrolysis. Technology recreated and results produced. The VIC, voltage intensifier circuit. Throughout my research and development, hundreds of various configurations have been tested. Development of this technology has led me to the present configuration, which shows much promise in the future of the WFC. The VIC is widely misunderstood, as many do not understand the underlying principle of equal opposite polarity pulses, EOP. The VIC that I have developed or discovered produces impressive amounts of HHO gas by the use of EOP, electrical stress, delivered to the water molecule. WFC, water fuel cell. The water fuel cell is a general term to describe the entire apparatus, including the power supply, the PWM, or signal generator, the VIC, and the cells, which are the metal plates or tubes submerged in the water. The cells that I utilize in my WFC are a bit different than what Stanley Meyer specifies. Given they are essentially the same design and provide the same function, I have found that slightly smaller tubes provide the best results for my specific application. The recombining of the water molecule, or the combustion, past the disk. This is key to safely utilizing HHO gas by preventing spark back and effectively eliminating explosion risk.
Stan told the truth.
An inventor by the name of Ethan Crowder has manufactured these discs and tested them, further proving the legitimacy of Stanley Meyer's patents and his water fuel cell technology. Exhaust gas recirculation. Another discovery of Stanley Meyer's was the ability to control the burn rate of HHO gas. Hydrogen burns much faster than gasoline or propane, for example. In order to properly utilize the HHO gas in the application of existing engines or propane burners, the burn rate must co-equal that of gasoline or appropriate gas source such as propane. To do this, Stanley discovered that non-combustible exhaust gases can be recycled into the system or the HHO gas to effectively reduce the burn rate to co-equal that of gasoline, propane, or other gas fuel sources. With this important discovery, no modification to existing engines and infrastructure is necessary to utilize the HHO gas as a replacement fuel source. His technology is responsible for rendering hydrogen safer than even natural gas. How the EPP works. Power input. There are two power supplies in my apparatus. The primary PSU is a variable 30-volt DC power supply. It is important to note that both power supplies utilized are linear mode devices. Switching mode power supplies do not work, as the power output of switch mode power supplies are not that of linear power supplies. I did a video explaining this. See episode SR24. The variable DC power supply provides power to the MOSFET, which in turn provides power to the primary coil of the VIC. Total power consumption of the VIC, or water fuel cell, is measured at this location with a maximum availability of 300 watts on my power supply. The second power supply is a simple low amperage 12-volt DC power supply that provides power exclusively to the PWM. The PWM and fans draw minimal amperage, less than 200 milliamps. So for the sake of simplicity, its power consumption will not be factored in to any measurements. PWM. The pulse width modulator is a typical signal generator that provides positive pulse square waves to the MOSFET. The PWM is a simple, widely available signal generator that provides a continuous waveform from 1 Hz to 20 kHz. Note that in my particular setup, there is no pulse gate as seen in Stanley's apparatus. Resonance in my apparatus is typically achieved at a frequency between 500 Hz and 5 kHz. MOSFET. The MOSFET is a typical circuit component that allows a low power signal, like a 12-volt square wave from the PWM, to amplify to up to 30-volt signal. The 12-volt PWM signal is effectively amplified up to 30 volts by means of the variable DC power supply. VIC. The voltage intensifier circuit is a glorified transformer. In my particular setup, a standard toroidal step-down transformer is connected in reverse to create a step-up transformer. I discovered that a specific readily available power transformer, the Triad Magnetics VP48-10400, works amazingly well for my application. It's important to note, however, that additional windings are suggested, more so required, to balance the waveforms delivered to the water fuel cell. This was previously explained in videos SR116.
There is no spoon.
The VIC provides multiple functions for the water fuel cell operation, as described here. Circuit isolation. The PWM's input signal is connected solely to the VIC's primary coil. The secondary coil, diode, inductors, chokes, and the cell tubes are electrically isolated, meaning there is no connection to ground or any other part of the overall circuit. The cells essentially operate on an open or floating ground that has no direct connection to any other part of the circuit. This is one of the key functions of the apparatus to reduce amperage consumption. Transformer action. The VIC inherently operates as a step-up transformer. It takes the low voltage, 30-volt input square wave signal and amplifies it to hundreds or thousands of volts while maintaining a similar unipolar pulse signal. Resonant condition. The VIC, or transformer's inductors, connected in series to the cells, set up an LC resonant condition. LC or LCR tank circuits are well known in the electronics industry and have been utilized for decades, namely in audio and radio technologies. The values of the inductors and capacitors determine the frequency at which the VIC will resonate at. Upon reaching resonance, the voltage is maximized at the cells. Amp restriction. The overall goal of the VIC is to amplify voltage and reduce amperage consumption as much as possible. As amperage is reduced, voltage is then able to be raised. Amp restriction is paramount to the water fuel cell, and as new ways are discovered to reduce amperage at the cells, higher voltage levels can then be achieved. Inductors. The VIC's isolated circuit is comprised of a secondary coil and 2 inductors. Depending on how you view the VIC's layout, there's a series inductor on each side of the cells, positive and negative terminals. These inductor values must be balanced to provide equal opposite polarity to the cells. Without EOP, available voltage and gas production are hindered. One of the inductors is essentially part of the secondary coil, as it's wound in a bifilar center tap mode, as explained in episode SR 104. EOP. Equal opposite polarity pulses are widely misunderstood in the water fuel cell community. Many inventors had pushed thousands of volts into their cells and barely produced any bubbles or HHO gas. The problem here is simply that they are not delivering the proper waveforms to the cells. EOP is paramount to HHO gas production. Without EOP, there is no voltage potential across the cells, and therefore there is no EPP. This is the biggest thing that is holding other inventors back from achieving any substantial gas production from their water fuel cells. Water fuel cell. As previously mentioned, the water fuel cell is a general term for the entire apparatus, but specifically can reference the tubes, plates, or cells of the device. In my particular setup, a single 5/16 inch stainless steel tube is placed inside a slightly larger 1/2 inch tube, so that they are concentric. The gap between these tubes is very important. The outer 1/2 inch tube has a wall thickness of 0.065 inches, having an inner diameter of 0.037 inches. This leaves a tiny gap of approximately 1 to 2 millimeters between the concentric tubes. This gap should be the only part of the tubes that's exposed to the water bath. Any other exposed metal reduces efficiency and exacerbates the dead short condition. The cells facilitate multiple functions of the water fuel cell as described here. A water capacitor. In the water fuel cell, the concentric tubes submerged in water create a type of water capacitor, exhibiting a similar function to a standard electrolytic, ceramic, or film capacitor. This water capacitor can store a charge just like any other capacitor. LCR circuit. In a typical resonant LC or LCR circuit, there is an inductor, in this case as part of the VIC transformer, and a capacitor, in this case the aforementioned water capacitor. This simple circuit allows energy to be exchanged between the two components at a given frequency. At this resonant frequency, voltage is increased to its maximum potential. This voltage pressure performs the work of separating the water molecule into its component parts, hydrogen and oxygen. Waveguide. Waveguides are simple tubes or chambers that direct the transmission of electromagnetic energy. In the application of the water fuel cell, the cell tubes act as waveguides that direct and propagate the electromagnetic energy throughout the entire tube. Electrical stress. The water molecule is a dipole molecule. This means that it has a positive potential on one side and a negative potential on the other side. Much like a standard microwave oven utilizes electrical stress or voltage potential to move and oscillate the water molecule, causing molecular friction, therefore heating up the water contained within your food, the EPP utilizes electrical stress or voltage potential to break apart the water molecule. This is achieved by simultaneously producing both positive and negative electrical stress or voltage potential within the waveguides or cell tubes. When the inner tube is energized with negative voltage potential, the outer tube is simultaneously energized with positive voltage potential. This equal and opposite polarity creates tremendous stress on the dipole water molecule. This EOP electrical stress within the waveguide causes the outermost covalently bonded electrons of the water molecule to elongate, disrupting their normal orbit. As the electron's orbits elongate, the covalent bond of the water molecule is weakened and eventually broken entirely. The result is two independent hydrogen atoms and one independent oxygen atom. The now liberated hydrogen and oxygen atoms are a net zero energy level, neither positive or negatively charged, as the dipole condition is no longer present. Voltage performs work. Voltage potential is the means of work applied to the water molecules. Voltage potential performs work. This is well known in the electronics industry. The more opposite voltage potential available at the cells, the greater the electrical stress subjected to the water molecules. Simply put, more voltage equates to more molecular disassociation. Future technology. The potential of the water fuel cell technology is boundless. At this present basic level of understanding and operability, the fundamentals are clear. Stanley Meyer's EPP and the WFC technology poses a tremendous opportunity for future breakthroughs as the process is further examined, understood, and developed. Efficiency. At my present level of understanding, as previously mentioned, the EPP is less efficient . From this point, efficiency is expected to be increased well beyond its present state. With the help of those knowledgeable in the appropriate fields, this technology can be improved, modified, and adapted to achieve incredible results. Here I have established a baseline, a cornerstone of this technology, and it may be up to you to take this to the next level. Next level technology. The electrical polarization process is the first step in Stanley Meyer's technology. With this fundamental architecture now proven, further exploration of Stan's patents can now be examined with certainty and credibility. The proposed next steps will be the experimentation in his hydrogen fracturing technology, electron extraction, and electrical particle generator, EPG. Since Meyer's patents on the EPP are now proven, who is to say that his subsequent patents are also not feasible? In my informed opinion, no man would go through such extensive length just for it to be a scam. Most certainly not to this level of discovery, documentation, and adaptation. The pursuit of knowledge. Since the dawn of mankind, the pursuit of knowledge has never ceased. Throughout history, major discoveries have transformed society. Most notable were the discovery of fire, chemistry, electricity, radio, the transistor, and the internet. Stanley Meyer's discovery of the EPP will be the next to add to this list. Now that the fundamentals of his technology can be firmly grasped, it will transform society once again. A level has now been reached to where additional safety measures must be accommodated for and put in place. Approaching gas levels of 1 liter per minute will satisfy the requirements of our test scenarios, but handling this amount of gas must be done safely. This ideally requires a secured, segmented space where the apparatus controls are at a safe distance from the water fuel cells and gas-consuming device. Hearing protection must also be considered, as hydrogen explosions can be more harmful to hearing than any other functions of the body. Ideally, the control room would be soundproofed to eliminate any hearing loss risk. Other safety measures must be in place for the use of high voltage systems. Safety grounds and automatic off relays must be utilized to prevent electrical accidents. As experimentation in the hydrogen fracturing technology begins, special caution must be exhibited due to the massive amount of energy that the apparatus could release, in the realm of up to and beyond 2.5 million times that of oil, per Stanley Meyer. HHO gas production, excitement, and utilization would need controlled at very precise levels to prevent unexpected results. Gas control systems, GCS. To appropriately utilize the generated gases, ambient air as well as non-combustible exhaust gases must be recycled or metered into the HHO gas feed. This allows for the control of temperature, burn rate, and appropriate engine RPM. For open flame test scenarios, captured non-combustible fumes can be recycled back into the HHO gas mixture to control flame temperature and burn rate. These measures of control can be accomplished by remote control variable gas valves and catalytic domes. Feed to internal combustion engine. Ideally, due to the high temperature flame generated by HHO gas, it would perhaps be best suited to power a Stirling engine or perhaps a steam energy generator. Realistically, the gas is to be utilized to power an internal combustion engine such as a small gas-powered generator. In order to do this, the aforementioned gas control systems must be developed and adapted to the intended device. Spherical resonant cavity, SRC. The spherical resonant cavity is a water fuel cell design that may outperform all other resonant cavities or cells. Typically, concentric tube-type cells are utilized due to the low cost and ease of availability. The SRC is a specially manufactured cell that few have even had the opportunity to build or test. These cells could provide a 3 to 19 times improvement in gas production over other tubular arrays. Gas resonant cavity. The HHO gas released from water can be further energized to release more energy than conventional HHO gas. This excitement of the water molecule is accomplished by priming the liberated free-floating hydrogen and oxygen atoms through the following processes. Laser injection. By exposing the HHO gas to positively charged photons, laser light, some atoms take on a positive charge. By positively charging the atoms, electrons are therefore made available to be extracted. Electron extraction. Through the use of the electron extraction circuit, EEC, positively charged atoms can eject their orbiting electrons. This circuit can dislodge and consume the electrons, producing ionized atoms. These ionized atoms are now at a higher energy state than normal. When combustion is attempted, there's not enough electrons available to complete the molecular bonds. Therefore, a tremendous amount of thermonuclear energy is released. References. View my Stan's Revenge YouTube channel. We'll have a link on the video. Again, the toroidal VIC transformer is the Triad Magnetics VPT48-10400. It's available at triadmagnetics.com. That's TRIAD. The PWM, the generic pulse width modulator signal generator, widely available on Amazon. MOSFET. I have found that the IRFP 460 has had the best results. Diode. The diode that I use is the PRH VP2A-20. Other diodes may work just fine, but this is the one that I use. It is also available on Amazon. The stainless steel seamless tubes. So my inner tube is a 5/16 inch outer diameter with a 0.035 inch wall. It has a 0.2425 inner diameter. The outer diameter of this tube is polished to remove residues and other contaminants from the tube. You only want stainless steel in the water. The outer tube is 1/2 inch outer diameter with a 0.065 inch wall. The inner diameter is 0.37 inches. The inner diameter of this tube is polished much like the outer diameter of the previous tube. It's important to note that the ends of the tubes must not be burred or flared. These tubes can be found at onlinemetals.com or any online manufacturer. Stainless steel strip. The part of my water fuel cell is the connector pieces of each individual tube. To accomplish this, I utilize 4mm fine dental strip. The thicker the stainless steel strip, the better. These are also available on Amazon. Enameled magnet wire. This is for the balancing inductor. Here in my scenario, I'm using 22 AWG wire at 0.0273 inch diameter. Other gauges of wire may work, but they are untested. Most important factor in this is matching the inductance of the opposite polarity coil. This magnet wire is also available widely on Amazon. The primary power supply, PSU. I use a variable 30 volt, 10 amp regulated power supply. It is important to note that the negative terminal is manually binded to the ground for linear application. This is a switching power supply, but by binding the negative and the ground together, you get the intended function that will work with the WFC. This is also available on Amazon. The secondary power supply for the PWM and controls is a simple 12 volt, 1 amp or less linear grounded power supply. All 12 volt power supplies listed are untested, but they should work. These power supplies are typically suited for DVR or NVR surveillance cameras. These power supplies provide a linear 12 volt DC rail plus a 0 volt ground. See Stan's Revenge episode 24 for more information about this. These are also available on Amazon. Hydrogen flashback arresters. These are very important. If you don't have the quenching discs that are very hard to acquire, these hydrogen flashback arresters are key to a safe operation. I use these ones called K Musculo oxy-hydrogen flashback arresters with check valve. These are a 1/4 inch barb, and they must be in place after each cell and just before the gas output endpoint. These are also available on Amazon. Everybody, thank you for watching this. Check out my YouTube channel for more information on this if you haven't seen it already. I will have this video available for download on Vimeo and other platforms. Make sure you download this video. Share it, hold it, get it out of my hands. I cannot be the only one with this information. As a contingency plan, as I have already in place, to where if something does happen to me, this information, these videos, this technology will live on. I thank you all again for watching. Again, my name's Noah Amen. I am Stan's Revenge.